8:47 p.m., waterfront ballroom in Wilmington, the kind of place where the chandeliers throw warm light across glassware and make everything look more expensive than it is. The air still carried a trace of salt from the river outside. My stepdaughter leaned into the microphone and smiled. She's just a freeloading stepmom. There was a half-second of hesitation, then laughter. Not cruel, not kind, just automatic. My husband gave a small, permissive chuckle. Just enough. In my jacket pocket, my phone vibrated. One clean pulse, then another. Pending authorization request. Extended bar hours, additional staff, immediate approval required. I didn't look at the crowd. I looked at the screen. A lot of people mistake silence for weakness. I've spent my career watching operations run on quiet decisions. Silence keeps a system running. Structure keeps it honest. I let the laughter taper off. Then I slipped the phone back into my hand and opened the alert. The request was under my name, my authorization, my payment profile on file. I already knew that part. What caught my attention was the contract reference number attached to the request. It wasn't tied to a joint account. It wasn't cross-listed. It was anchored to a vendor package I had signed alone. That mattered. I stood slowly and stepped away from the sweetheart table, nodding to a server as if I were checking logistics. No one stopped me. The band shifted into a softer tempo. Someone near the cake table clinked a fork against a glass. Near the hallway, the sound dulled. Bass thudded faintly through carpet. The air smelled like lemon cleaner and butter from the catering trays. I opened the authorization screen again. Approve. Decline. It would have been easy to approve it. Clean up the moment. Keep the night intact. Pay for the extension, and let the insult dissolve into champagne. But the microphone line was still in my ears. Freeloading, and now my name was being asked to extend the same party. I pressed decline. One tap. The screen spun briefly, then confirmed. Authorization declined. Vendor notified. No rush of emotion, no satisfaction, just clarity. I captured the confirmation with the timestamp visible and recorded it in my wedding folder on the phone. Then I locked the screen. The pressure changed immediately. My husband called. I let it ring. He called again. I let it ring again. From inside the ballroom, laughter rose and fell. Someone said my name in a tone that wasn't neutral. In the mirrored foyer, I caught my reflection. Suit straight, shoulders square, no visible disruption. My mother-in-law appeared from the ballroom doors like she had been watching for me. "There you are," she said, touching my sleeve. Her rings were cool against the fabric. It was a joke, you know how she is. Behind her, gold light. In front of me, dim hallway. "It didn't land that way," I said. Her smile tightened. "Don't embarrass the family," she murmured. That word again. Family. Not, "Are you all right?" Not, "That crossed a line." Just an instruction to absorb it. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I asked one question. "Why are all the contracts under my name only?" She blinked. "Well," she said carefully, "you're the organized one, and your credit is better." Like it was a compliment. Like access meant permission. I nodded once and stepped back into the ballroom. My husband intercepted me before I reached the table. His smile stayed fixed for the room. "What did you do?" he asked through his teeth. "I declined the extension," I said. His jaw flexed. "You can't do that. We already told them." "You told them," I corrected. He leaned closer. "You're humiliating us. Us." He used it like a shield. Across the room, the groom stood near the DJ booth with a venue manager holding a clipboard. They were scanning the tables, looking for someone. Then the groom's eyes landed on me. He approached slowly, drink untouched in his hand. "Hey," he said quietly. "Quick question. Who's actually paying for all this?" My husband's hand tightened on my arm. I didn't answer immediately. I held his gaze. I'm listed as the only signatory, I said. That's what I'm verifying. The groom's expression shifted from confusion to calculation. My husband's smile thinned. The music continued. The cake remained untouched. The photographer kept circling like everything was still intact, but something had cracked. And once something cracks, paperwork starts to matter. An hour later, as the dancing picked up again, my phone vibrated. New credit inquiry, not bar-related, not venue-related, credit. That wasn't chaos. That was pattern. I didn't respond in the ballroom. I waited until we were home. The house was quiet when we walked in. He went upstairs, closing the bedroom door, a little harder than necessary. Downstairs, I sat at the kitchen table. The faint smell of catering containers still clung to my jacket. I opened the notification. Inquiry. New credit instrument initiated. Under my identity. No prior discussion. No written authorization. Just assumption. I opened my laptop. Not to argue, to review. I pulled up vendor confirmations, payment records, authorization alerts, 2 actions. I exported the credit inquiry notice as a PDF. Then I filed it into the existing wedding folder, and I stopped. Upstairs, I heard his voice on the phone. Low, urgent. I didn't need to know what he was saying. The next step wasn't emotional. It was procedural. By morning, I would know exactly how many instruments had been opened in my name. I closed the laptop. The refrigerator hummed. The hallway clock ticked steadily. I sat there long enough to understand something simple. If your name is underwriting something, you don't get to pretend it's a joke. And by morning, I was going to make sure the documentation matched the truth. The next morning, the kitchen smelled like burned coffee. He had left the pot on too long. Bitter. Sharp. Lingering. I poured it out and started a fresh one. Measured the grounds. Listened to the drip. He came in, adjusting his tie. "You're still on this?" he asked, like we were discussing a misplaced napkin. "I'm reviewing exposure," I said. He exhaled through his nose. "It was a joke. You're making it into something else." I didn't answer that. Because it hadn't started as a joke. It had started months earlier. Scene A. The kitchen table had been covered in venue brochures. Heavy cardstock. Gold embossing. The waterfront ballroom printed in warm light that made it look like a magazine spread. My laptop glowed with invoice totals. The printer hummed beside me, pushing out draft contracts. He stood behind my chair and tapped the screen. "Just cover this for now," he said, pointing at the premium bar upgrade line. The air smelt like garlic takeout and warm toner. "We'll even it out later." I looked at the number, I scrolled to the signature line, and I signed. Back in the present, my phone buzzed against the wood table. Credit limit increase processed. I opened the banking app. 2 actions. I downloaded the last 90 days of transaction summaries. Then I flagged the new credit activity line item for review. And I stopped. He watched me from across the counter. "You don't have to treat me like a suspect," he said. "I'm treating the paperwork like paperwork," I replied. He laughed once. "You always go straight to worst case." "I go to documented," I said. He shook his head and grabbed his keys. "Don't drag lawyers into this," he said. "That would be insane." The word hung there. Lawyers. That hadn't come from me. It had come from him. Scene B. The loading dock at work smelled like diesel and damp cardboard. My badge beeped against the scanner as I clocked in. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I stepped aside near a stack of shrink-wrapped pallets and checked it. "Credit limit increase approved." I hadn't requested one. I called him. "It's temporary," he said over speakerphone. I could hear traffic wind through the line. "We'll rebalance after gifts." "After gifts," I repeated. "Don't make it dramatic," he said. "It's leverage." Behind me, a forklift reversed, warning alarm beeping in steady rhythm. I stared at the alert, and I let it stand. Back in the kitchen, he was pacing now. "You're embarrassing me," he said. "Calling vendors during the reception. Freezing things? I declined one authorization, I said, under my name. You're humiliating us, the word again. Us, I met his eyes. I didn't speak into the microphone, I said. He looked away first. Scene C. Late night. Living room dim, except for the desk lamp casting a small yellow circle on the carpet. The HVAC hummed through the vents. I sat cross-legged on the floor with my laptop open. Vendor contracts stacked beside me in a neat pile. I created a desktop folder labeled Wedding Final. I dragged the signed PDFs into it. The highlighter squeaked softly as I marked clauses about liability and authorization. From the hallway, his voice drifted in. "Don't worry so much," he said. "It's all family." I remember the way the lamp buzzed faintly. Family was the word he used when he didn't want to say binding. Back in the present, I closed the memory and looked at the screen in front of me. This hadn't happened overnight. It had happened in increments. A deposit covered here. A limit raised there. A quiet assumption that because I was organized, I would absorb the rest. Certainty without authority. My phone buzzed again. Email notification. Subject. Deposit confirmation revised terms. I opened it. The vendor had processed an amended agreement at 11:12 p.m. the night before, under my name. 2 actions. I downloaded the attachment. Then I forwarded it to my personal account for record, and I stopped. He leaned against the counter and rubbed his forehead. "You don't trust me," he said. "This isn't about trust," I replied. "It's about authorization." He let out a long breath. "We can fix it privately. We don't need banks involved." Privately meant verbally. Verbally meant without record. I closed the laptop. "If it stays inside this house," I said, "nothing changes." He stiffened. "You're blowing this up." "No," I said quietly. "The paperwork already did." He went silent. The refrigerator cycled on. The coffee finished dripping. He softened his tone. "Let's just talk it through," he said. "No lawyers, no official complaints." "We can talk," I said. "But I'm verifying boundaries. That sounds like a threat. It's a process." He stared at me like he was waiting for me to blink. I didn't. By noon, I had scheduled a consultation with a family law attorney downtown. Not to end a marriage. To clarify authority, rules don't live in kitchens. They live in records, and I was done pretending my name was a family resource. Downtown Wilmington carries a different rhythm during business hours. Salt air from the river mixes with warm brick and printer toner drifting through open office doors. The buildings look older than the arguments they hold. The attorney's office was on the 3rd floor. Frosted glass. Her name in plain black lettering. No slogans. Inside, the air was cool and still. A clock ticked behind her desk with steady precision. She listened without interrupting while I outlined the contracts, the credit alerts, the ballroom speech. When I finished, she asked one question. What's binding? Not how I felt, not what I wanted. Binding. I turned my laptop toward her. 2 actions. I scrolled to the vendor contract signature page and pointed to my name. Then I opened the credit inquiry notice and set it in front of her. She read quietly. No raised eyebrows. No commentary. "Any co-signatures?" she asked. "No. Written authorization granting another party authority to open credit in your name?" "No." She folded her hands. "Then liability is restricted to the named signatory pending investigation," she said. "If financial instruments were initiated without documented consent, that's subject to correction and reassignment." The word reassignment settled into the room. "Will it look like fraud?" I asked. "It will look like documentation," she replied. "There's a difference." She outlined the next steps plainly. Freeze credit across bureaus. Contact fraud departments. Request certified lender review. Submit affidavit of non-authorization if required. "Don't argue at home," she added. "Route everything through record." I nodded. Outside, on the courthouse steps, My phone vibrated. My husband. I let it go. Then a text. "What are you doing?" I didn't answer. Instead, I called the first credit bureau. The automated prompts were slow and mechanical. Press 1, enter, zip code, confirm identity. I completed the verification and requested a freeze. Confirmation number issued. I recorded it in my notes. Then I ended the call. Across the street, two people argued over a parking ticket. Loud. Public. My phone buzzed again. Voicemail from him. "What are you telling people?" he said. "The groom's asking questions. The venue is calling. You're making this bigger than it is." I didn't return the call. I dialed the bank's fraud department. The representative's tone was neutral. "I see multiple recent activities associated with your identity," she said. "Did you authorize a credit expansion processed at 9:02 p.m. last night?" "No." "Did you authorize a new loan instrument initiated 3 days prior?" "No." Keyboard tapping on her end. "We'll flag the instruments for review pending affidavit," she said. "Provisional liability remains with the named signatory until investigation concludes. Named signatory, me, for now." She emailed the affidavit form. 2 actions. I downloaded the document. Then I logged it into the same folder with the vendor contracts, and I stopped. My phone rang again. This time, my stepdaughter. I answered. "What are you doing?" she demanded. "I'm verifying documentation," I said. "You declined the bar extension. People noticed." "People noticed the speech, too," I replied. Silence. "It was a joke," she said. "It carried my name," I answered. "You're ruining the memory." "I'm clarifying the record." She hung up. The courthouse doors opened and closed behind me. Steady traffic. Ordinary disputes. Back at my office, there was an email waiting. Subject: clarification, needed payment responsibility. From the venue manager. I opened it. 2 actions. I replied with 1 sentence. "Please direct all payment inquiries to the named signatory on file pending review." Then I copied my personal account for documentation. And I stopped. There was a knock on my door. HR. She stepped inside and closed it gently. "I received a call this morning," she said. "From someone identifying as a family member. They expressed concern about your mental state and said you were making erratic financial decisions." There it was. Smear. "What did you tell them?" I asked. "That we don't discuss employees with outside parties," she said. But I logged the interaction. "Thank you," I said. "Are you all right?" she asked. "I'm resolving unauthorized financial activity through formal channels," I replied. She nodded once. "If you need written confirmation of employment or stability, we can provide it. That would be helpful." When she left, I closed the door and stood for a moment. Performance had shifted to pressure. At 3:15 p.m., he called again. I answered. "Why is the bank flagging things?" he demanded. "Because they weren't authorized," I said. "It was temporary. We were going to rebalance." "With what?" I asked. Silence. "You're making me look like a criminal," he said. "I'm aligning the paperwork with reality," I replied. He didn't have an answer for that. By evening, I had completed the affidavit and scheduled a certified lender review for the next morning. No declarations, no public statements, just submission. At 8:12 p.m., a lender notification arrived. Instruments under review. Provisional restrictions applied. Upstairs, I heard him pacing. Downstairs, I sat at the same kitchen table where, months earlier, I had signed a bar upgrade without hesitation. He came down slowly. "They've frozen everything," he said. "For review," I answered. He stared at me. "This didn't have to go this far." "It went as far as the documentation required," I said. "Not victory, not collapse, just process moving forward." The first freeze didn't feel dramatic. It felt procedural. Saturday morning, 9:06 a. Confirmation from the second bureau. Credit freeze active. Inquiry block in place. Temporary access restrictions applied. I wrote the confirmation number into my notes file. 2 actions. I printed both bureau confirmations. Then I placed them into a dated manila folder. And I stopped. Upstairs, a drawer slammed. That was the other lane answering. He came down holding his phone like it might change its mind. My mother says the venue called her, he said. They're asking who's responsible for final settlement. They should contact the named signatory, I said. That's you. For now. His jaw tightened. You're humiliating us in front of her family. I didn't write the speech, I replied. He didn't argue that point. He pivoted. The groom's parents are asking questions, he said. They think you're sabotaging the marriage. That was social pressure dressed as concern. I didn't defend myself. I opened my brokerage account instead. 2 actions. I set alerts for any outbound transfer attempts. Then I disabled margin access, and I stopped. You don't trust me at all, he said. This isn't about trust, I answered. It's about authorization. Monday morning, 10:30 a.m., certified lender review. The representative read the instruments line by line. Credit expansion request submitted electronically, she said. Originating device associated with shared household IP. Shared, not joint. Do you have written authorization granting another party signing authority? No. Then liability remains restricted to the documented signatory pending investigation. I understand, I said. That was the financial lane. At 11:12 a.m., the social lane moved. A colleague knocked on my office door. Everything okay at home? He asked carefully. Why? Front desk received a call, he said. Someone said you were under stress and making unstable financial decisions. I nodded. Please ensure it's logged, I said. It is, he replied. No public correction, no hallway defense, documentation. That afternoon, my mother-in-law left a voicemail. You're taking this too far, she said. Families work things out privately. Privately meant without record. 2 actions. I preserved the voicemail. Then I forwarded it to my attorney, and I stopped. By Wednesday, the lender issued formal notice. Provisional liability reassignment pending investigation outcome. Pending, not final, but moving. He walked into the kitchen holding the letter. What is this? He asked. It's the review process, I said. You told them I forged something? I told them I didn't authorize something. That's the same thing. No, I said. It isn't. He changed tactics. I'll fix it, he said. I'll call them and explain. You can't create authorization after the fact, I said. It either exists or it doesn't. That evening, a patrol car rolled slowly past the house. It paused at the curb. I stepped onto the porch. The officer approached calmly. We received a welfare concern call, he said, regarding financial distress. I'm fine, I said. We're resolving a financial dispute through formal channels. He nodded and left. Behind me, my husband stood in the doorway. You called them? He asked. No. He didn't deny it. Scatter. When procedure tightens, people test the perimeter. Thursday morning, financial lane again. The fraud department confirmed instrument suspension pending investigation. External access disabled. I noted the call time, 2 actions. I updated my attorney with the confirmation. Then I closed the file, and I stopped. Friday afternoon, social lane. My stepdaughter showed up unannounced. She stood on the porch, arms crossed. Why are you doing this? She asked. I'm clarifying what already exists, I said. You're making Dad look bad. He made himself legally visible, I replied. She blinked at that. I thought you loved him. This isn't about love, I said. It's about signature authority. She didn't understand that language. She left. Inside, he tried once more. He handed me a printed document. "I drafted this," he said. "It explains everything, says we both understood. No notary, no formal acknowledgement, no binding language, just narrative." "I don't sign retroactive stories," I said, handing it back. "You're destroying this marriage over paperwork." "No," I answered. The paperwork revealed what the marriage already was. By the end of the week, the pattern was steady. Financial lane, freezes, reviews, provisional reassignment. Social lane, rumors, pressure, welfare checks. I didn't escalate. I routed. Emails through counsel, voicemails preserved, calls logged, no shouting, no social media, no public declarations. Saturday evening, he sat across from me at the kitchen table. "They're saying liability might shift," he said quietly. "Yes." "What does that mean?" "It means the name on the instrument matches the responsibility." He looked smaller than he had under the chandelier. Less performative, more procedural. This wasn't revenge. It was alignment. By the second week, the language shifted. Not in our conversations, in the letters. The first lender notice had said pending investigation. The next said provisional reassignment, initiated. The third read documentation sufficient for liability transfer review. Small changes in phrasing. In compliance, small phrasing changes mean the file has moved forward. Monday, 9:18 a.m., the fraud department called. "Your affidavit has been reviewed," the representative said. "We have insufficient evidence of joint authorization. The instruments opened under your identity will be reassigned to the initiating party pending final verification." "Pending final verification," I repeated. "Yes. Both parties will receive written notice." Both parties. That was new. I thanked her. 2 actions. I recorded the call time and summary in my notes file. Then I forwarded the confirmation email to my attorney. And I stopped. At 9:41 a.m., my phone lit up. "Him," I answered. "They're saying I initiated something," he said. His voice was thinner now. "That's not what happened." "What happened?" I asked. "We handled it together." "Show me the authorization," I said. Silence. He exhaled. "This is getting out of control." "It's getting documented," I replied. By noon, the social pressure returned. HR knocked again. "Another call," she said. "Same pattern, anonymous this time." "And?" I asked. "Claimed you were about to lose your home due to unstable spending." I nodded. "Please attach it to the existing log." "It's already logged," she said. She hesitated. "If you need a formal employment verification letter, we can prepare one. That would be helpful. Institutional tightening." The rumors had moved from emotional to reputational. That evening, a certified envelope arrived. Return address. Lender Compliance Department. Inside was a formal notice. Provisional liability reassigned to secondary initiating party pending signature verification. I read the sentence twice. Then I placed it on the table. Upstairs, pacing again. He came down 15 minutes later holding his copy. "They sent me one too," he said. "No accusation this time." "What does yours say?" I asked. "That I'm responsible pending investigation." "Yes." "They froze my access," he added quietly. "That's standard," I said. He sat down heavily. "This is going to follow me." "Yes." No edge in my voice, just fact. 2 actions. I scanned the notice into my digital file. Then I filed the physical copy in the manila folder. And I stopped, because my phone vibrated again. "Local department follow-up. Welfare concern logged as unfounded. Safety pressure documented." Later that week, the lender issued final reassignment confirmation. Credit Bureau updates in progress. Restoration timeline, 30-45 days. I felt something settle. Not relief, completion of sequence. That night, he sat at the table again. "They want me to sign a verification statement," he said. "You should read it carefully," I replied. He looked at me. "I didn't think it would go this far." "It went exactly as far as the paperwork allowed," I said. His mother called again. I let it go to voicemail. "This can still be fixed," she said. "Just tell them it was a misunderstanding." 2 actions. I preserved the message. Then I transmitted it to counsel. And I stopped. Counsel only. Communication. By the end of the 3rd week, the financial structure had separated. My credit score restored. Instrument liability reassigned. Access restrictions formalized. My attorney filed for legal financial separation. No announcement. Just a stamped acknowledgement from the clerk. He received notice 2 days later. When he brought the envelope into the kitchen, his hands weren't steady. "You filed," he said. "Yes, for separation. For financial separation." He sat down slowly. "This didn't have to happen." "It already did," I said. That night, no patrol car passed, no anonymous calls, just quiet. Friday afternoon, the locksmith arrived, per council recommendation. Metal against metal as the old cylinders were removed. Click, turn. New keys placed into my palm. 2 actions. I signed the service receipt, then I logged it into the file, and I stopped. That evening, he packed a small overnight bag, not angry, not loud. "This is really it?" he asked at the door. "This is structure," I said. He nodded once, and he left. The first morning alone, the house didn't echo the way I expected it to. It just sounded normal. The refrigerator cycled on. The coastal wind pressed lightly against the siding. Somewhere down the street, a neighbor's truck started and idled before pulling away. I made coffee, measured, poured, waited. No burned smell this time. I sat at the same kitchen table where contracts had been signed, alerts had vibrated, letters had been opened. The manila folder rested in front of me. Thinner now, not because anything disappeared, but because everything had been sorted. Final reassignment, confirmation. Credit Bureau restoration notice. Affidavit acceptance acknowledgement. Stamped court filing. No dramatic language. No emotional commentary. Just structure, aligning with reality. At work that Monday, the loading dock smelled like diesel and rain on concrete. My badge beeped against the scanner the way it always had. Routine has weight. A colleague passed me near the freight schedule board. "Everything settle out?" he asked quietly. "It's been documented," I said. He nodded. That was enough. Midweek, the final compliance email arrived. Investigation closed in your favor. Liability reassigned to initiating party. No further action required. I read it once. 2 actions. I recorded the closure date in my notes file. Then I moved the entire folder into long-term archive storage. And I stopped. Documentation has an endpoint. That afternoon, I opened my credit report again. No unauthorized instruments. No unexplained inquiries. No pending reviews. My name stood alone. Clear. I thought back to the ballroom, chandelier light, laughter, the microphone, freeloading. I remembered how silence felt in that moment. Heavy, expectant, watching to see if I would absorb it. Silence keeps a system running. Structure keeps it honest. I didn't repeat the sentence out loud, but I understood it differently now. Silence without structure becomes liability. Structure without noise becomes protection. There's a difference. A week later, the final court acknowledgement arrived by mail. Legal financial separation accepted. Effective immediately. Stamped. Filed. I placed the letter into the file cabinet drawer and closed it. Metal sliding against metal. Click. That sound meant something. It meant boundaries were no longer implied. They were recorded. The house shifted in small ways. I replaced the hallway bulb he'd said was fine. I boxed the framed wedding photo and placed it in storage. I cleared the kitchen table entirely. Not out of anger, out of clarity. One evening, I stood on the porch watching the tide move against the dock posts down the street. The air smelled like salt and pine sap warming in the sun. My phone buzzed, a text from him. They finalized it. I looked at the message for a moment, then I replied, "Read everything carefully. No accusation, no comfort, just acknowledgement of process." Over the next few weeks, normal life returned in quiet increments. HR confirmed no further calls had come in. The venue manager redirected final settlement to the proper party. No more emails arrived with my name attached to obligations I hadn't approved. I walked through the house one night without inspecting it. The living room lamp cast a soft circle on the carpet. The hallway was quiet. The locks turned cleanly. No vibrating alerts, no surprise inquiries, no assumptions carried under my signature. People sometimes ask if I regret not reacting differently in that ballroom, if I should have taken the microphone, corrected the narrative in public. I don't. Public reactions fade. Documentation remains. The system didn't move because I argued. It moved because I verified what was binding. If your name is on something, it matters. If your signature appears somewhere, it carries weight long after the room empties. I didn't destroy anything. I clarified it. Before I close this, I'll say one thing plainly. Look at what your name is currently underwriting. Not emotionally, not hypothetically. Documented. If your silence is carrying liability you never agreed to, structure will show you that. You just have to be willing to read it. The house is quiet now. The files are closed. The record reflects exactly what happened, and everything that remains sits where it belongs.